Sentient beings may attain Buddhahood. From my heart I take refuge in the three jewels, in order that all sentient beings may attain Buddhahood. From my heart I take refuge in the three jewels, in order that all sentient beings may attain Buddhahood. From my heart I take refuge in the three jewels. Whatever the virtues of the many fields of knowledge, all are steps on the path of omniscience. May these arise in the clear mirror of intellect. O Manjushri, please accomplish this. Good evening, welcome. Thank you, Cynthia, for that tip. Hope you're all well this evening. Forging ahead into more light, longer days, and warmer temperatures. Hey, so tonight we continue with deviations and strains to finish up this chapter, the second half of the chapter, with the way these experiences become strains and so forth. How to not stray, how to clear away hindrances. So let's dive in. We're on page 366 of our text, the Moonbeams of Mahamudra. How's my sound? Everybody hear me okay? Thanks. Great. When any of those experiences of bliss, clarity, or non-conceptuality, so page 366 on the top, when any of those experiences of bliss, clarity, or non-conceptuality develop either altogether or separately, if we take them to be sublime and intentionally cultivate them with attachment and fixation, feeling pleased when they develop and unhappy when they don't, they will cause us to stray from the abiding state. That's a tough one, huh? Those experiences are so nice. With the rare moments when they occur. I'm not sure about the altogether being altogether, but the reason is that generally all reference points block the attainment of liberation. And specifically conceptualizing good karma like bliss, clarity, non-conceptuality will be a cause for the happy states. The happy states. New York, Maine, California, and conceptualizing bad karma such as the mental afflictions will be a cause for the negative states. In brief, all attachments and reference points are said to be ways we go astray on the path. The great Brahman teaches, whatever you focus on will itself obscure liberation. Aren't we supposed to focus on practice? I guess we're supposed to practice without focusing on it. Yes, maybe? In brief, all attachments and reference points are said to be ways we go astray on the path. Whenever you focus on will itself obscure liberation. What's labeled good is a sickness, dragging you into samsara. Labeling an inferior action does not stop its maturation. So just because you call it this or that doesn't stop it from tying you to samsara. He continues, Kye ma, do not attach yourself to the things you desire. That's an illness afflicting the sublime mind of great bliss. When your mind is impassioned about an object it desires, the stainless mind is struck by the weapon of desire. No desire, no impassionment about objects of desire. He also says if the mind that thinks this is attractive takes that to heart and cherishes it, even pain the size of a sesame seed husk will cause constant affliction. Virupa explains, if we bring the abiding state to mind, fixate on experiences or focus and meditate on suchness, we deviate. Specifically, I will now discuss what experiences which experiences causes us to stray. Which experiences causes us to stray? I don't know about the plural there, do you? Which experiences cause us to stray into particular situations, since bliss creates the causes for being born in the desire realm, clarity, the causes for the form realm, and non-conceptuality, the causes for the formless realm. They are not causes for perfect Buddhahood. It is explained that once we've had a break from the sufferings of the lower states for a time, which are the hell realm, the hungry ghost, and the animal realm, and have experienced the happiness of the three realms, the happiness within the three realms, or of the three higher realms. Anyway, I think we know the intention. We will return to cycling endlessly in the three lower states. The exalted Gampopa teaches the three strains of experience are as follows. When we have experiences of physical bliss, mental bliss, and bliss pervading our body, the implication being that that's different than physical bliss somehow. Being attached to those, overly fixating upon them, and taking them to be supreme are the substantial causes for being reborn in the desire realm. If we die in such circumstances, we will stray into the desire realm. So it's said to be very important to die in a proper frame of mind, which is a tough one because death tends to be painful, right? And these days, most places that you die will give you pain-easing medications like morphine and so forth, which are not really that helpful. Let's see. Once we have enjoyed the pleasures of the desire realm, it won't be hard for us to wander endlessly in the three lower states. When we have experiences of clarity, free from dullness and sluggishness, being attached to those and taking them to be sublime, lead us to stray into the form realm. Once we have experienced its pleasures and enjoyments, we will easily fall to lower states. So these are the four absorption states, absorption practices that then result in birth in the form realms, the four form realms. When we have experiences of not being disturbed by the winds of thoughts, i.e. non-conceptuality, fixating on those, i.e. experiences, and taking them to be superior are the substantial causes for being reborn in the formless realm. If we die in those circumstances, we will stray into the formless realm. Once we have experienced the pleasures and enjoyments there, we will wander endlessly in the three lower states. The exalted Padmadrupa, the progenitor of the Jupakagya states, having sought the company of genuine gurus and practiced their instructions, bliss may fill your body and mind. Fixating on that and cultivating it, you will stray into the places of the desire realm. It's interesting he focuses on those because that is a common thing that happens to people as they connect with a guru, and it produces experiences of bliss and great happiness. And we tend to conflate that with spiritual, positive spiritual development, right? So you gotta be very careful, I guess. Brilliant clarity, like the sky, arises, like the moon rising internally and externally. There may be no difference between opening and closing your eyes. How do you like that one? If your experience was such that you could see as much with your eyes closed as with your eyes open, that's pretty cool. Wow. If being attached to and fixated upon that, you practitioner sustain it, you will stray into the form realm. So that's an interesting one about the form realm. The implication is that in the form realm, there's no such thing as having eyes open or closed. You may look externally and internally, yet there won't. Yeah.
Yeah. What is the form realm?
Yeah, what is the form realm? So, the form realm, the three realms of existence, right? Desire, form, and formless realms. And the
Like
idea
we're in
is,
desire now.
yeah, we're in desire realm. Yeah. So the desire realm has the six realms in it, and they use the same term, realms, and so it's confusing. But five of the six realms are exclusive to, sorry, actually, four of the six realms are exclusive to the, no, sorry, five. Five of the six realms are exclusive to the desire realm. So the hell realm, the hungry ghosts, the animals, humans, and the asuras, the jealous gods, are all part of the desire realm. So the desire realm, and then the God realm, the sixth realm, spans from the desire realm into the form realm and the formless realms. And they're said to be like 17 levels of the God realms. And so the form realms are these realms where there's pure form. There's no like complexities of form that we have in this life of like the messiness. They're like it's sort of like archetypal forms. Yeah, it'd
Like
be
what
interesting.
Plato was talking about.
Seems to be quite similar, at least the way they're described. It'd be neat to get a better description. We get most of the descriptions you get just list the first realm, form realm, the second, third, and fourth, based on the samadhis that result in rebirth there. And they have each of them has a king, just like Indra, Shiva, Brahman. The Hindu gods are like the gods of those realms, the lords of those different realms, one each. And they live for like a really long time, and their days, like one day in those god realms is like years in our realm or something like that. And I think they have all of the senses we have except taste. I don't think they have taste. There's some sense that they're missing, or it might be bodily sensation. They might not have actual discrete bodies. I don't know. We'll have to form a little task force or a committee to research. Like, what is it? What are these realms? And then the formless realms are limitless space, limitless consciousness, limitless nothing whatsoever, and limitless neither perception nor non-perception. So they don't have hair there, but it's sort of like splitting hairs between these realms. There's no bodies, so it's like there's no form. So discrete beings are basically they're mental beings. And as we know, the mind is not matter, is not form. So um, this, it's still, even though there's no physical division between the beings in that realm, because there's no physicality, there are different beings because they have their own mind streams. And in each of these realms, the idea is that you live for like a very long time, and then gradually you start to fade. The karma that brought you there will start to wear out. And what do they say? They start to smell bad in the form realm. And then poof, they're gone. It's like, where's Bob? He was here yesterday. And boom, you're reborn in one of the lower realms.
Or maybe it's like, thank goodness he's gone because we don't smell him anymore.
That's right. That smell was driving me crazy.
Pretty sad.
But they're a key part of the whole scheme of the samsara in the Hindu or pre-Buddhistic Indian religious scheme, as well as the Buddhist religious scheme. They're interesting ideas. And here we have a description. We're just about to have a description of these samadhis that result in these rebirths. So, let's see, on the top of 368 is being attached to and fixated upon that experience of non-conceptuality, described as, this is clarity, bliss, luminosity, this is luminosity. But being attached to and fixated upon that you practitioner sustain it, you will stray into the form realm. So we have the different absorption states lead to rebirths in these different realms, but then also these experiences of bliss, luminosity, and non-conceptuality are said to lead to rebirth in these realms. And so the implication then is that the absorption states, for example, the first four absorption states, dhyanas in Sanskrit and jhanas in Pali, have their main quality is clarity or luminosity, which is not immediately obvious that would be the correlation. The formless realms, those samadhis, have the quality of non-conceptuality. That makes a little more sense. And the desire realm is pervaded, those samadhis are pervaded by bliss, and that makes more sense as well. So back on 368, you may look externally and internally, yet there won't be the slightest thought. So if you have the idea of looking, is that a thought? If you have the idea of looking for a thought, is that a thought? Yet there won't be the slightest thought. You see the Dharmakaya free from particles. If you consider what you enjoy and don't enjoy and specifically sustain that experience, you will stray into the formless realm, which here is correlated with the Dharmakaya. That's a pretty interesting correlation. In keeping with the practice tradition, the exalted Ling Repa says, some great meditators, like simple-minded children, latch onto the vivid appearances of their rainbow-like experiences, not recognizing them to be seductive points where they go astray. So Ling Repa was one of the Repas in the tradition of Mila Repa, who perfected the practice of the first of the dharmas of Naropa, of Dumo, inner heat, and only needed to wear a small loincloth, or didn't really need to wear any clothing to keep warm, but he wore that out of respect for something or other. Let's see, the exalted Bharwa explains in detail, as for the strains from Mahamudra, resting evenly with the thought, all phenomena are infinite like space, will stray into limitless space. So this is the first of the four limitless or formless realm absorptions of samadhis. Thinking, Consciousness is limitless. We stray into limitless consciousness. Meditating with the thought phenomena are nothing. We stray into nothingness. Don't bang your head when you hit nothingness. Remember to bend down. Resting evenly with the thought phenomena are neither existent nor non-existent. We stray into the sphere of neither existent nor non-existent. That's a good one. Meditating in samadhi with discernment, analysis involving fixations, joy, ease, and a one-pointed mind would stray into the first meditative concentration. So strangely, in this presentation, he gives the first three of the four formless absorptions and results, and then he shifts back to the form realm absorptions, the dhyana states. So it's a little bit interesting to see what are the qualities of each of these absorption states and how do they change. So the first one has discernment and analysis involving fixation. So there's these two types of subtle thought. In Sanskrit, vichara and vitarka. And I've been dying to find some source that talks about them to see if they're like samprajanya, because it seems to me they must be like samprajanya, like the subtle level of thought. They're described as the type of thought. They're often translated, in many other texts I see them translated as sustained and applied thought. So it's like having a focused attention on the object of meditation. And then the other one is the type of thought that examines the object, which is identical, really, to like the description of mindfulness and alertness, which smriti and sampajanya. Anyway, the first absorption is achieved by cultivating those two qualities, plus joy, ease. So the joy and ease, one of them is meant to be a physical well-being and one is a mental well-being. I think in this case, joy is probably the physical and ease the mental, and a one-pointed mind, one-pointedness, samadhi, taking these in. Focusing on these, we stray into the first meditative concentration, the first absorption state, the first form realm absorption. Then meditating in samadhi with tranquility. So having ceased the activity of discernment and analysis involving fixations that occurred in the first jhana state. And the description of the way to progress from one jhana to another. Yes, ma'am.
The which state?
Jhana or dhyana.
Jhana
is the Pali. I keep slipping into the Pali because it's the Pali tradition is much more into these absorption states. So jhana, Jhana, and then dhyana, Dhyana, are respectively Pali and Sanskrit terms for these absorption states, jhana and dhyana. And the way that you proceed from the first to the second is you look at the factors or the qualities of mind of the first absorption state after you come out of it, because you can't really do it while you're in it. But you look at these qualities, discernment, analysis, joy, ease, and one-pointed mind, and you say which of them is coarse and which of them is subtle. And in this case, you decide that discernment and analysis involving fixations are coarse, and so you eliminate those, you pacify those, and experience what's here called tranquility. And you still have the experience, or cultivate the experience of joy, ease, and a one-pointed mind. And that is the second meditative absorption. And then meditating further in samadhi, free from discernment and analysis. Interestingly, on this third one, they mention that it's without discernment and analysis, whereas the second one also is without that. with equanimity. So tranquility has turned into equanimity. And now we have mindfulness, alertness, and we have ease. We are on page 369. You got it. So we have ease, but no joy, and we still have a one-pointed mind. But somehow we've entered in the factors of mindfulness and alertness, which is a little bit odd in this description. More traditional descriptions or other descriptions that I've seen are more formulaic and not like adding new factors that are confusing. Let's say.
I guess one question is, were they there all along and they just weren't saying it?
That is presumably the case, but why wouldn't, it's a little odd they wouldn't say it.
Yeah, I no, it doesn't make sense to me either, but I just wondered if,
I think they have to have been there because the first one starts at the culmination of shamatha, which is the very essence of those two factors. Ease and a one-pointed mind, so joy has been given up. We stray into the third, then purified equanimity, so greater equanimity, purified mindfulness, but no alertness, the sensation of there being neither pleasure nor pain, and a one-pointed mind are the fourth. So the neither pleasure nor pain is relates to the having given up joy and ease as being coarse qualities of experience, and focusing exclusively on equanimity and purified mindfulness and one-pointedness. And that's the fourth meditative one. And then resting them on just a non-conceptuality that comes from blocking the objects appearing for the sixth consciousnesses is the absence of true mindfulness and its strain into the cessation without cognitive discriminations. So this is the one of the two types of cessation states. There's cessation with analysis and cessation without analysis, and this is the cessation without analysis that has like a cognitive blankness to it, and is something that one who cultivates the absorption states could experience after perfecting the fourth absorption without having achieved the path of seeing or the understanding of emptiness or selflessness. And then a blank, open mind that is completely neutral causes us to stray into an unmindful, neutral state. And this is just like not even called a cessation experience, but just a total blankness, a blotto experience of mind. So the cessation with analysis is what one can practice if you're like an arhat or a non-returner, and you've uprooted the belief in a self, and you've cultivated all the other absorption states. You can then rest in the cessation that's said to be similar to nirvana while one is alive. So the early tradition of Buddhism has all these schemes of all these different absorption states that we inherited from the earlier traditions in India. And then finally, a glazed, sluggish, uncertain state when merely without thoughts and with no clarity causes us to stray into becoming animals. So be very careful that you don't like fall into one of these very advanced states by mistake. These are all strains. Furthermore, the exalted Bhakmadrupa says, even though we meditate without fixating on bliss, clarity, or non-conceptual way, it's still possible that we'll become Shravakas or Pratyeka Buddhas. That, so yeah, we're on 369. So that we will opt for the cessation experience that is that seems like nirvana, that Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas experience. The exalted Yongbunpa explains we may cling to bliss, grasp at clarity, or fabricate non-conceptuality. If we fixate on those three, we will stray into the three realms. Even without such fixations, if we do not see our own face, our mind's abiding state. So presumably they mean like the true nature of mind as opposed to our actual human facial features. We will stray into the results of Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas. Currently, these are probably not experiences that we have to worry about actively, like they shouldn't really keep you up at night. But apparently there were issues for meditators in the past. Although we do find in the Exalted Gampopa's lectures that he said that analytical emptiness and a lack of love and compassion can cause us to stray into the Hinayana. Interesting characterization of the Hinayana as lacking love and compassion. I think there'd be a lot of Hinayana people very unhappy at that characterization. It is explained that to attain the results of Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, we need both shamatha and the vipassana that focuses on the non-existence of the self, which is what I was referring to a few moments ago. And we must relinquish our mental afflictions. Sustaining with no fixation the bliss, clarity, and non-conceptuality that are devoid of vipassana is an ordinary, mundane meditative concentration. And that type of experience is what was pervasive throughout the four absorption states and the four limitless states, that type of non-fixation without vipassana. Therefore, we conclude that it isn't feasible that such meditative concentration will bring the attainment of the level of a Shravaka or Pratyeka Buddha Arhat. So this author is saying that even though Gampopa implied this, it's really impossible for a Shravaka Pratyeka Buddha to not have vipassana that realizes the absence of self. I think something like that. We may then wonder, what does the exalted Gampopa mean when he says there is the danger that a mind to which experiences or objects appear yet are not ascertained can become a cause for cessation? His abundant auspiciousness, a collection of Dharma lectures, explains that the cessation he refers to is a non-analytical cessation, which we saw on the last page. Is of the two types of cessation, is the negative type of cessation. Now, all of this is like very obscure and arcane and not terribly relevant. So it's probably confusing, but it's not really worth spending a lot of time on. But he says, let's see, the Guru, with the eye of Dharma, who has directly perceived mind itself to be emptiness, ascertains bliss, clarity, and non-conceptuality as being unborn. So sees the emptiness of those experiences and thereby releases the clinging to them or fixation to them. If those experiences are not ascertained as unborn, they are what are called experiences or objects that appear yet not ascertained. Yet are not ascertained. They lead to a non-analytical cessation, and since that is a common path, it is uncertain where we will be born as a result. In other words, don't cling to bliss, luminosity, or clarity and emptiness, non-conceptuality. Just note them as interesting passing experiences and return to whatever technique we're working on. Non-analytical cessations are described in the Treasury of Abhidharma by Vasubandhu, which for the Tibetan tradition is like the Bible of Abhidharma for the early tradition of Buddhism, i.e. Hinayana. The complete prevention of arisal is a different cessation. It is non-analytical. So there's this notion that there's cessation by suppression of factors that might give rise to the next moment of awareness. And then there's cessation that can be brought about by analysis of the sense of self as being a fiction that leads to a cessation by virtue of there being no fixation on the sense of personality, person or self. And when you look at the scheme of the dharmas, if you remember your 75 dharmas, the chart of the 75 dharmas, the first division of the dharmas is between compounded and non-compounded dharmas, or conditioned and non-conditioned. And the non-conditioned dharmas are 3 in number. And there's analytical cessation, non-analytical cessation, and nirvana. The 3 unconditioned dharmas. Again, obscure, arcane, not not really relevant, but just what he's talking about. The explanation of this root verse, so the Abhidharma Kosha has a root text called the Treasury of Abhidharma, and then a commentary called the Kosha in Sanskrit, or explanation of the Treasury of Abhidharma, says, what completely prevents the arising of future phenomena is a cessation that is different from separation. It is non-analytical, and it is a cessation. It is not attained through analysis. That's the formal definition of it. And the part about prevents the arising of future phenomena maybe is a little confusing, but again, not really a major topic for us. When the conditions on 371, when the conditions are not complete, the arising of the future phenomena, be it defiled or undefiled, is blocked. So conditions means situations that bring about the next moment of something, productive causes, there's the object condition, the focal condition, the dominant condition, and the immediately preceding condition are the standard list of causes that contribute to the arising or to the occurrence of phenomena. And in the case of visual consciousness, if there's a complete absence of light, then there's no arising of the next moment of visual consciousness, sort of thing. So that's an example which you might argue, well, the eye would see the inner workings of the rods and cones on the retina, but just as an example. Anyway, that is a cessation that is of a different substance from an analytical cessation, which is the understanding of selflessness. The reasons that it is uncertain where we will be born as a result of such non-analytical cessation are explained in Shantideva's entrance to the Bodhisattva's way of life. The mind lacking the realization of emptiness may cease, but it will arise again, just as we do from absorption without discriminations. So I don't know where the author says this situation is explained. I don't know that Shantideva actually explained it. It didn't feel like that to me. Felt to me more like he referred to it as an example or similarity. And then he quotes the King of Samadhi Sutra. Even though the world cultivates samadhi, they do not destroy the notion of a self. Mental afflictions return to disturb them, as they did for Udraka, who meditated in samadhi. He was apparently some famous person in the Indian spiritual scene way back who was extremely proficient in the various absorption states, and yet he didn't have any realization of selflessness, and so he got fixated on his absorption experiences. Those without cognitive discrimination. So that's a header. Let's see. Those without cognitive discrimination. Those who are born as God without cognitive discriminations. Those in states in which mental factors are blocked, and those in the meditative absorption that is without cognitive discriminations are in meditative absorptions in which mind and mental factors cease because relying on the fourth meditative concentration, they perceive the absence of cognitive discriminations to be liberation. And oddly, it seems to me that this whole little paragraph, which was actually one very long sentence, well, pretty long, seems to be talking about the formless absorptions, but it doesn't really specify that. The meditative absorption of cessation. This is a state without cognitive discrimination in which beings rely on the sphere of neither discrimination nor non-discrimination. And feeling weary of discriminations and feelings and perceiving their state as the actualization of peace, they are absorbed in the meditative absorption in which mind and mental factors are completely pacified. So the sphere of neither discrimination nor non-discrimination is the fourth of the infinities or the formless absorptions, which interestingly was missing, at least explicitly, from Barowa's review of all the different absorption states. But anyway, that provides the basis for the experience of cessation without this analysis. Although those are meditative absorptions in this context, they are considered to be strange since they do not have the understanding of the absence of self. They are unable to pacify their belief in the self, the root of samsara. Because they're unable to do that, their karma and mental afflictions recur and they continue to cycle in samsara. So
it sounds like there's a lack of view here.
That's the main essence of this whole section. And I think that the reason why this section is, the only reason this section is important for us is that it presents a whole list of various problems that none of us are likely to ever experience. So I think we can feel good about that. Right? No? I do. Anyway, Ms. Dharmakirti says, if there's self, other is cognized. When the pair of self and other come clinging and anger, the connections with these two produce all faults. Can't disagree with that. The point here is that samsara is not transcended even by those whose minds attain the pinnacle of existence, like the example of a samadhi practiced by Ujjaka. Now, the pinnacle of existence is, for me, a little bit of an unclear term because it seems to be applying to the cessation trance that is occurring at the end of the formless absorption of neither discrimination nor non-discrimination, but it's also the fourth of the four stages of the path of joining, which it's possible that these people, ladies and gentlemen, may be achieving through their absorption states, but it's pretty unlikely that they would get that far in the path of preparation without having any understanding of the selflessness of persons. Not a major issue that should keep us up again. Analytical cessation. This is described as cessation attained through analysis of the four truths with the prajna of the uninterrupted paths. This is a technical term. This uninterrupted paths I'm not really totally clear on that. In the sort of Theravada or Hinayana world, they have this way of talking about the paths as like it's a big deal whether one's attainment of the paths is interrupted on a momentary basis by some other experience, which probably didn't mean anything to any of you. So, anyway, it's a cool term, right? Uninterrupted paths. Don't interrupt me, I'm on the path. Okay? A cessation that is free from defiled phenomena. All that being the case, what a difficult and somewhat irrelevant section. But anyway, those who do not understand the distinctions of the different types of cessations are confused by the statement that there is the danger that a mind to which experiences or objects appear yet are not ascertained can become a cause for cessation. Is anyone here confused by that? Didn't cause a beep or bleep or whatever, right? Most of the numerous discussions by unlearned people about that, referring to the cessations of Shravakas and Pratyekabuddhas, is just the chatter of fools. And yet, there is still one well-known scholar, person A, who says the fool's meditation on Mahamudra usually is a cause for being born as an animal. Ouch. If not that, they may be born in the formless realms. Oof. Or else they may descend into the cessation of Shravakas. Oh my God. God forbid. And then there are those who repeat such nonsense. Nevertheless, all that seems to be the talk of people who do not understand that only Shravakas, only Shravaka non-returners, right? So that in the early tradition scheme of the path, you have stream entry, which is vaguely equivalent to path of seeing, or the initial experience of enlightenment, emptiness of self. And then you have a once returner. And the idea is that a stream enterer will be born no more than 7 times, reborn before they achieve nirvana. And then you have a once returner, somebody who will return, be reborn only once. And then you have a non-returner, and then you have an arhat. And the slightly interesting thing about this whole scheme is that there's this unexplained way of overcoming the kleshas of the various realms. So when they say that, like, shamatha suppresses the kleshas and vipassana uproots the kleshas, the question is, okay, so that happens on the path of seeing. Vipassana uproots the belief in a self and the attendant kleshas that go along with that. But then what's the difference between the path of seeing or learning, like the first Bhumi Bodhisattva and a 6th or a 10th Bhumi Bodhisattva? In the same way, what's the difference between a stream entry and a once returner and a non-returner? Other than the number of lives, what propels them to return for a number of lives? This, that they overcome more and more of the kleshas, which have been suppressed but not totally uprooted. Because the experience of emptiness in the first bhumi and the path of seeing is equivalent to the experience of emptiness in a 10th bhumi bodhisattva. Not the Buddha, but... So it's post-meditation that's different in that between the first and the 10th Bhumi Bodhisattva. And so there's some implication that in order that the neuroses, the kleshas rather, are affiliated with the different realms. And there's these various schemes that some of us have gone through in other courses, Treasury of Precious Qualities. Does anyone remember like the 112 factors that are overcome? And then those get extrapolated out to 414 ringing bells. Very complicated, like charts of like the different number of obscurations that are overcome over that path. How about people have heard like between the first and the 9th, or between the first bhumi and the 10th bhumi, there's 9 bhumis, and there's 3 phases of each of the 9 bhumis. which is 27 levels, and there's like the the greater the greater of the great afflictions and the medium of the great afflictions and the lesser of the great afflictions, right? Cynthia's heard this scheme, right? And then there's the greater of the medium afflictions and the medium of the medium afflictions, right? uh, anyway,
They just like to break things down.
yes, and make it like all orderly and nice, as if it's like a computer, like, okay, at this stage you overcome this one, check, right? As if we're machines. But at the end of the day, the only interesting thing about it, I think, is that there's this implication that if you haven't cultivated the absorption states before you experience the path of seeing and that enlightenment, you have to go through them afterwards in order to uproot the kleshas that relate to those realms. You have to access those realms in order to uproot the kleshas that are affiliated with those realms, which is an odd little issue that shouldn't really keep us up at night. But anyway, okay, let's see. Not that who do not understand that only Shravaka returners and Arhats, who are on the bottom of 372, have the ability to enter the Shravaka meditative absorption of cessation that realizes the absence of a self of persons. If such people understood that, they would regret drawing comparisons between the cessations of Shravakas and Partaker Buddhas and the causes for being born as an animal. He's talking about Sakya Pandita, right? Also, Dorje Shera, propounder of the single intent, teaches. So the single intent is like the main teaching of the Drikung Kagyu school. And he was one of the main progenitors of the Drikung Kagyu school. The single intent, like that, like just focus on one thing, sort of thing. Even without attachment to experiences of bliss, we can achieve the desire realm. Even without clinging to clarity, we can achieve the form realm. And even without fabricating our conceptuality, we can achieve the formless realm. The author then says, implicit in that statement is that being attached to the experiences of bliss, grasping the experiences of clarity, and fabricating non-conceptuality lead to major problems. And I think the reason why that Dorje Shera said those things is he's saying, like, you can access those realms without the attachment to them. And in saying that, he's implying that that is part of our path, that at some point you have to access those realms in order to uproot the
That's where I was confused. Aren't those realms, they just exist? What does he mean by achieving them?
Achieving experience, like achieving the ability to be conscious or aware in those realms. So that's the other thing, is the other idea is that all of us as sentient beings, we exist in all three realms. Sort of, that's an odd one. It's like you progress from the desire realm to the form realm by it's like within your own mind stream. It's already there. I don't know. This whole section is not that.
Oh, I have a thought about this. It, it seems it seems the major problem with uh, um, the experience of these three states is how they're received. Like, in other words, I think if you think you did it, that, oh, my great meditation has created this situation. I'm on to something. So that in a sense, it doesn't break down a sense of self. It actually contributes to it. I think that's the issue here. Um, or at least that to me that seems to be the pitfall.
Yeah. Whereas if you've cut the root of belief in a self, and then experience them, you overcome the attachments involved in
Right,
something
but
like that.
right, but if you just sort of let it, wash off you like, water off a duck's back, okay, this is cool, but what else is new, Maintain curiosity, maintain openness to whatever might come next.
So it's
Yep.
kind of like uh, understanding it is one thing, but experiencing it is another. I guess would be a way to say it. Yeah, maybe I should worry about this in the next life.
Anyway, let's continue. Therefore, non-conceptuality in which the unborn nature is not ascertained, the unborn nature being like indication of shunyata, emptiness, as being the further evolution of selflessness. Non-conceptuality in which you don't understand emptiness can be the catalyst for clinging to emptiness and a strong nihilistic view. Its result will be to descend into the lower states ultimately. Although it may be free from attachment and fixation, it is a mental state of equanimity or indifference included within bliss, clarity, and non-conceptuality. And it is an unspecified neutral mental state. The reasons that those are strains have been discussed already in the section on eliminating the flaws in meditation. Finally, the exalted Gampopa says, even though you may be free from fixating on the emptiness of percepts and perceivers, noble objects, you may not see the true point. That's an odd one. Even though you may experience meditation free from duality, you may not see the true point. Although the view free from conceptualization is called beyond extremes, that's mentally fabricated. Great meditators who haven't cut their bonds may have excellent samadhi, but it's a cause of their samsara. Dharma practitioners without compassion may be very diligent, but they are on the Shravaka's path. Anyway, check that whole section off, and we move on to the presentation of the methods for not straying in those ways. Most experiences which are part of bliss, clarity, and non-conceptuality become strains due to the following circumstances. Yes, ma'am.
Is that part saying that the true point is compassion?
I think it's saying that the true point includes compassion necessarily. I don't think they would say that the true point is compassion exclusively. But I think the implication is that understanding of emptiness in the experience or the development or realization of great compassion are simultaneous. Wisdom and compassion are simultaneous. Most experiences which are part of these three become strains due to the following circumstances when we aren't certain that all those experiences are free from an essence that arises or ceases, that they have no nature that can be identified, and that they are unborn emptiness. We go astray by reifying or taking to be real those meditative experiences that, born of latent tendencies, arise as mere conventionalities through the interdependence of the channels, winds, and bindus in the body. So the idea is that all meditative experiences are the result of various activity in the subtle body, which is made up of the channels, winds, and bindus. Therefore, we should sustain our meditation with a continuous mindfulness that ascertains everything to be unborn without the clinging that reifies. By doing so, we will keep from straying. As cited above, Gampopa teaches ascertained bliss, clarity, and non-conceptuality to be unborn. If those experiences are not ascertained as unborn, they are what are called experiences or objects that appear, yet not ascertained. Some fine technical point. Which gives you some inkling of, like, in the Profound Treasury, Volume 1, and the end of the Four Foundations of Mindfulness section, the Mindfulness of Mind at the very end, Rinpoche goes through what he calls nyams, temporary experiences, and he says there's 5, and there's 3. And the 5, he says, are the stages of the waterfall, fast-moving river, and so forth. And then he says the 3 are these 3, he calls them fundamental yams of bliss, clarity, and non-thought. And he basically he describes them and sums them up as being pitfalls, without going into all of the complexity that we just saw here. But basically says, these will happen as you practice. If you continue to practice, these will occur. Do not become fixated on them. Don't try to cultivate them. Don't be attracted by them. Don't be alarmed by them, etc. He also says, meaning Gampopa 374, in the middle, generally speaking, it is explained that any strain into the 3 realms, the 4 meditative concentrations. So when they say the 4 meditative concentrations, that is a reference to the 4 jhana or dhyana states of the formless realms, and the 4 spheres is a reference to the 4 immeasurable states of mind of the formless realm. That these occur based on just a bit of clinging to those states. Strain into being a Shravaka is the strain of analytical emptiness, where analytical emptiness doesn't fully understand emptiness, but ends up with a somewhat nihilistic emptiness. Abiding without clinging to an essence has no strain. There is no flaw. As long as you do that, you're cool. Abiding without clinging to an essence. And generally, since strains involve fixation or grasping, you should rid yourself of fixations and grasping. That way you don't have to worry about whether you're fixating or grasping onto the first meditative concentration or the 6th or the 4th or all that, cessation trance or stuff. It's very confusing. As long as you just don't have any clinging, you're good. Fixation, grasping. Remain utterly without fixation, without any clinging. Remain utterly without anything to adopt or reject. Resting uncontrived in that way is referred to with the term meditation. As the lamp for the true view says, resting without contrivance and equanimity is called meditation, just as a convention. That's a good convention. Wouldn't that be a cool convention? Instead of going to the Democratic National Convention or the Republican, you go to the resting without contrivance and equanimity convention. It's a very popular convention. Now we might think, isn't it sufficient to only ascertain the unborn nature? It can't really be necessary to have the experiences of bliss, clarity, and non-conceptuality. That's not quite right. Not so fast there, Abernathy. Right? The following citations demonstrate that both realizations and experiences are necessary. The exalted Gampopa explains, without bliss, clarity, and non-conceptuality, even if we ascertain the essence of the unborn, it is as my guru, Milarepa, says. Whatever that is, it's not it. It's the trunk, not the fruit. It's a good quality, but it's not non-conceptual. So here we have the rub. It's instead of just staying away completely from bliss, clarity, and non-conceptuality, you actually have to experience them and use them in some way, interestingly. They bring the trunk to fruition. They bring experience to they lead experience into non-conceptuality. Apparently, the great Lord Atisha sings, how do they know he sang this? I guess it had a tune. Without the latent tendencies of definite training, yoginis see nothing. They are like bees drinking from sky flowers.
Just can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Is I mean, I know that they say bliss, clarity, and non-thought. Those experiences they do come along because or that the fact that they come is a sign that you are practicing a lot. So in that sense, it's a good sign. So what I'm wondering though is the ascertainment that they are talking about of the essence of the unborn, is that considered more of a intellectual or conceptual ascertainment as opposed to an experiential one?
I think so. I think
So
that's the
that's the distinction
implication.
they're making here. Then is uh, an intellectual understanding versus an experiential.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because the word ascertain, you would think that that meant you really got it, but clearly
I
there's
wasn't
a
sure what
difference.
they meant by that. Yeah,
This is car 28. We're calling radio in at
Roger,
403.
Roger, Steve.
What amazing background sounds you have there. Yeah, that is the interesting rub, right? Even if we ascertain it, so that seems to be trajectory of understand, experience, and realize. So maybe ascertain is somewhere between understand and experience. And with these, by experiencing these three qualities, then you actually bring about the realization of the unborn, as opposed to just ascertaining the unborn nature of reality. It actually becomes an embodied experience. That seems to be the implication, right?
So you drop your Madhyamaka reasoning into your samadhi and you get something visceral. But
The, the,
if you just talk it out, then you just have an ascertainment. That
I like that. If you drop your Madhyamaka reasoning into your, what did you say, your samadhi,
yeah, your samadhi.
then you have something visceral. Is that
Yeah,
what you said?
yeah.
That's
That's an
great.
experience then.
Yeah, yeah. It's real. That's great. Just put a half a cup full of Madhyamaka reasoning into your samadhi, mix it thoroughly, and bring to a boil. In that case, we may ask, how should it be? Yeah, just like tell it, please. Can you just lay it out for us? Gampopa says the view connects to realization.
Which is great because there you're collapsing all those stages, view
Understanding and
from understanding
experience
straight to
and
to realization collapses the whole three stages into.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unclear exactly where ascertainment is, but the implication is that it's not realization. Do not leave the abiding state of mind, its essence and nature as being a freedom from extremes or a freedom from elaborations that is just mentally fabricated or intellectually derived, i.e. ascertained. Look with prajna and directly realize that mind has no essence at all. It is beyond being an object that can be expressed verbally or conceptually. As for the cultivation of the view, Gampopa continues, meditation connects to experiences. It is taught that what is realized is not to be left far away as just a theoretical understanding. It must be experienced vibrantly, clearly, right within awareness, which presumably is related to the need to experience these three of emptiness, bliss, clarity, and non-conceptuality. Again, the exalted Gampopa says, when training, first cultivate vibrant mental clarity. Next, train in non-distraction. Then, train in never being distracted from the essence of awareness. Which how is that different from non-distraction? I guess the focus is slightly different. When you have become accustomed to that, confidence will arise within. And vibrant clarity is an experience. Not being distracted from that is stillness. Realization is when prajna sees that no essence exists. Those type of experiences are called
Post meditation instructions, right?
is when real prajna sees that no. I think they could be both. Those types of experiences are called experiences intrinsic to realization, or the experiences intrinsic to the essence. They are explained as being meditation, in which experiences and realizations are inseparable, free from strains and errors. They are discussed by, guess who? The exalted Gampopa. Now you may ask, what are the experiences connected to meditation? They are called experiences intrinsic to the essence, experiences intrinsic to the cognate state, experiences intrinsic to the natural state, experiences intrinsic to Mahamudra. What do they refer to? They refer to the essence of your own mind. What is that? It is not something existent. It does not have even 1/100th of a hair tip's worth of something to be identified. It is not non-existent. It is something that is experienced and realized. What is it that's experienced? When you experience the mind that doesn't even have a hair tip's worth of something to be identified, how can you experience something that cannot be identified? It's a tough one. It's like a riddle. It is not non-existent. It is something that experienced and realized. The essence of mind is clarity, emptiness. Oh, so he identified it. Unidentifiable. It must arise uninterruptedly as empty clarity. When it does, meditation is connected to experiences. When it is said that experiences and realizations are simultaneous, that's what is meant by the opening phrase of what are experiences connected to meditation. It's when experiences and realizations are simultaneous. That being so, some say bliss, clarity, non-conceptuality are three places to go astray in meditation. Bliss, clarity, and non-conceptuality are three pinnacles in meditation. So they can be a blessing or a curse, the pinnacle or the strain. The first sense refers to experiences involving fixation and clinging, and the latter one to experiences intrinsic to realization. In this context, a certain person, Sakya Pandita, says, if merely cutting off the three strains brought Mahamudra, a cessation of Shravakas would be that. Merely cutting off the three strains presumably are into bliss, clarity, and non-conceptuality. Merely cutting them off brought Mahamudra, Shravakas would be that. That statement reflects nothing more than his desire to say something negative, critical. This statement is a false statement because although we assert that the three strains must be cut off in Mahamudra meditation, we do not accept that merely severing the three strains results in Mahamudra. The three places to go astray are the three realms, and there are others besides those following the Mahamudra path who do not stray there. So when they say the three places to go astray are the three realms, it seems that applies to the desire, form, and formless realms. Let's see. There are others besides those following the Mahamudra path who do not stray there, such as Shravakas, and yet it is not an occasion to make a special mention of the Shravakas cessations. However, since he has, meaning Sakyapandita, those who are able to enter the Shravaka's absorption of cessation are exclusively non-returners who physically actualize nirvana, and arhats with twofold liberation. I can't remember what twofold liberation is. Anyway, since they have the remainder of the body of the desire realm or the form realm, they have not relinquished the three places to go astray. They have the remainder of a body of the desire of form realm. So you have a body in those realms. And
This is the nirvana with remainder, right? Is what they call
guess
that, right?
so, yeah. I guess so. It doesn't totally make sense, but the certain person, Sakyapandita, also says the Prajnaparamita Sutras teach you should become familiar with emptiness, but do not actualize emptiness. If you meditate on just emptiness, you will not realize emptiness itself. Even if you realize emptiness, you will fall into the cessation of Shravakas. I love it when they say, you will not experience X, Y, or Z, and if you do, it won't be the right way. But you won't. That is not correct. We cannot become familiar with emptiness without actualizing emptiness. Okay. Therefore, that is a falsification of the teachings in the Prajnaparamita Sutras. Here, our Mahamudra meditation on emptiness is endowed with the most sublime of manifestations. Here, our Mahamudra meditation on emptiness endowed with the most sublime of manifestations does not involve the flaws of meditation on just emptiness. So, the most sublime of manifestations. What an odd phrase, right? It's like, I'm just sort of like curious if somebody who doesn't know this phrase could say what they think it means. What could it possibly mean? Emptiness endowed with the most sublime of manifestations.
Well, is this conateness that we are talking about?
Emptiness endowed with conateness. Emptiness
Oh,
endowed with...
I'm sorry, that it's emptiness endowed with clarity, luminosity, in a conate way, which is what we've been talking about for all these weeks and months, right?
I guess so.
The key point here seems to be the word just emptiness, the just.
Mm-hmm. But why would he not say conate emptiness and use this phrase, most sublime of manifestations? That's such an interesting phrase. Someday somebody's got to explain that properly, but as Cynthia says, it tends to indicate the other side of experience, of clarity, and the possession of Buddha qualities. That reality, i.e. one's mind, the true nature of one's mind, are inherent or connate to co-emergent emptiness and Buddha wisdoms, Buddha qualities. The last two flaws, that is meditating on just emptiness, not leading to the realization of emptiness, and even if it does, then leading to the cessation of Shravakas, come back to him. And with his view that asserts, Sakyapandita, come back to him with his view that asserts the ultimate to be analytical emptiness, a non-affirming negation. So they're quibbling on different ways of understanding emptiness. This author, Tashi Namjo, is accusing Sakyapandita of being a wrong Jompa, of understanding emptiness as an absence, as a refutation, as the object of refutation, of a non-applicative negation, right? A non-affirming negation. Whereas the true understanding of emptiness is that it's indivisible with luminosity and Buddha qualities, which are the supreme of all aspects, the unchanging primordial wisdom, which is another way of referring to the sublime, most sublime of manifestations. Chapter of the Kalachakra Tantra explains that analytical emptiness is the emptiness of a nihilistic view, and therefore it's to be abandoned. So emptiness that is understood by just refuting existence and non-existence, both in neither, is called an analytical emptiness. Whereas an experiential emptiness is one that is the sort of genuine article that is the non-conceptual understanding of the indivisibility of manifestation and emptiness, luminosity and emptiness. 2. Clearing away such obstructing hindrances. This has two parts. First, clearing away the general hindrances to samadhi. Starting on page 378, broadly speaking, regardless of the particular samadhi we are sustaining, we must combine both arousing clarity with the focus, the object of cultivation, i.e. mindfulness, without that being obscured by the clarity, presumably, and stabilizing that clarity without being swayed by distractions. So the possible downfall of clarity is distractedness, and the possible downfall of focus is lack of clarity. The hindrances for the first are created by all types of dullness, and the hindrances for the latter by all types of agitation. Thus, dullness and agitation are the root hindrances for sustaining samadhi, which is the same as the scheme in the shamatha, the progression of shamatha. To look at their internal divisions, the category of dullness includes dullness itself, sluggishness, feeling dazed, drowsiness, and idleness. The category of agitation includes agitation itself, remorse, doubt, pleasure-seeking, and malice. For beginners, they are hindering problems and must be dispelled. The ways to identify those and remedy them have been already explained already in this section of the general explanation of shamatha and vipassana, where he went through the obstacles and antidotes, since these are the main obstacle. Dullness and agitation are counted as one obstacle. For those who have become realized, who recognize in the nature of phenomena, such faults arise as meditation, because they are aware of the nature of dullness, agitation, and so forth. Once you've realized the nature of all phenomena, then all phenomena are antidotes, are continual samadhi. One experiences continual samadhi because there's no distraction. Since phenomena are not differentiated, there's no way to become distracted. So, let's see. The Great Exalted One, Milarepa, sings, Physician teacher, talking to Gampopa, do not dispel dullness and agitation. They are the meditation. How's that for a reverse logic? Dullness and agitation are the object of meditation. Dispelling the flaws of scattering sluggishness, dullness, or agitation is like lighting a candle during the day. Why would you want to get rid of those experiences? They are the true nature of mind. Yes. The Exalted Gampopa states, when dullness or agitation arise, look at that itself. Be clearing away other inner and outer hindrances. The Vairochana Abhisambodhi says, there are two types of hindrances, those of the external sphere and those of the internal It continues, one should know that the internal ones are diseases, pulmonary congestion, choking, vomiting, dropsy, illnesses, loss of appetite, and the like, that have unbearable qualities, such as those of cold or hot winds. The great external hindrances are humans and non-humans. Those thorns to wisdom appear in order to destroy the world with their various kinds of behavior. He's talking about our president, you understand, right? He's being prophetic. He says, in parentheses, 44 and 46, right? They create confusion for any who undertake austerity. Dropsy illness. Dropsy is like a tropical illness or something, right? Have you heard of dropsy? Anyone? It's an unusual illness. I think it may not exist much anymore. As is said, there are two categories of hindrances: the external ones of humans and non-humans, and the internal ones of illnesses and thoughts. In the first category, humans are specifically our relatives, companions, and others who deceive us, who draw our mind into the seductiveness of worldly appearances. It can also refer to our enemies and thieves, who by harming us cause us to give up on our spiritual practices. Non-humans include Maras with imperceptible forms, such as those who create the magical displays of Buddhas and hungry ghosts, and Maras with perceptible forms, such as Yetis and predatory animals, all of whom cause us to be overpowered by obstacles. So there's all sorts of non-human or beings that what we would call supernatural beings, right, in the Buddhist world.
I'm surprised they don't mention like earthquakes and blizzards as other external hindrances.
Interesting. I think those are considered to come about through the karma of sentient beings,
Oh, okay.
but yeah.
Just a note on dropsy, according to I did a quick look up, actually, it seems to be another word for edema.
For what?
Fluid retention, like edema,
Edema.
edema. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce anything. I wonder if it's like an old-fashioned term for that.
Yeah, interesting. Water retention, okay. Yeah, where the thunderstorms and so forth that we're experiencing now. Yetis. Yetis are Bigfoots, right? They're the snowman version of Bigfoot. In the second category, the hindrances of illness occurs when the four elements in our body are disturbed or become imbalanced. The various illnesses, that arise from wind, bile, phlegm, and their combinations create obstacles for us. I think those are the four elements. No, the four elements are earth, water, fire, air. Sorry.
No, those are the three, like in Tibetan medicine, they divide up the different, like humors. I think and
That's
it's
what I
similar
was
to
trying to.
Ayurvedic as well, but so those are just three different body types, and you might say tendencies towards illness and
Yeah,
imbalance.
yeah, aspects of the body that get out of balance and
Right.
cause illness when they become out of balance or improper function. The hindrance of thoughts is the random arising of thoughts involving high mental afflictions that cannot be checked by remedies or incorporated into the path of the view or meditation. How come they say that bring all mental afflictions to the path if they acknowledge that there's some that cannot be overcome by, cannot be checked or incorporated into the path? They bring us under the sway of the eight worldly values. We should recognize that all of these are obstacles and dispel their specific faults. Okay.
Maybe
The
they just
skull.
mean cannot yet be uh, remedied.
Or may not have yet been.
Right.
The scholar said a Che Gompa saying, the Mara of Torpa has gotten into your head. refers to when our experiences and our spiritual practices are unclear. The mar of speech has entered your tongue means we enjoy talking. And specifically are unable to keep our experiences secret. Don't tell anyone, but the mar of discursiveness has entered your heart means our mind pursues objects and cannot settle in naturalness. The mar of traveling has entered your feet means we cannot stand to stay in isolation and we long to travel. When those arise, we should meditate on our guru at our head, throat, heart, and head respectively. Two of them, that's the head, and supplicate strongly that the specific hindrance be pacified. It is taught that they will be pacified. In brief, if something harms the progress of our excellent qualities of review or meditation, it is said to be a hindrance that obstructs the supreme siddhi, even though it may be the development of merit or the development of a common siddhi. Therefore, we should dispel such faults using the appropriate remedy or by integrating them into the path. This completes the explanation of eliminating deviations and strains in meditation. Al, that second half was a little bit odd, huh? Obscure and arcane and esoteric and so forth. The first part of the strains was very helpful, last week's version. Any comments, thoughts, suggestions, remedies, home remedies, maybe family remedies for strains? Barbara.
Just the silliness. I kept, when we were talking about the realms where kind of the meditator gets fixated or caught, kind of like a horror movie where the monster is dead, but then all of a sudden it's like flares up again, like the ego thing, like the fixation is like, all right, it's too silly for anyone else to understand, but like right, all the fixation, that's all ego, right? Kind of.
Yes, definitely.
So, but they think they're having a wonderful time and they're very advanced and they know a lot, but then it comes back and attacks them, sort of. I don't know. Forget I said that.
Forget what?
No, forget it's too silly.
I can't remember what you were talking about. That is good, though. I like that. I like that. That was good. So how about
coming back to me, but anyway.
How about a little chart of the realms to close? Eric, something quick?
No, it probably wouldn't.
Okay, let's take a peek at the realms here. This is from a very obscure source that I found, that I have access to, but because I have special contacts with very important people. It's from a thing called Wikipedia. And let's see if we can enlarge this. Oh, damn. How did we, jeez. Oh, drat. Can you see this? So this is the 31 planes of existence. Sensuous, see this here? Sensuous, blissful realms. These are the desire realms, I guess. And here's the heaven realms of the gods. So the human realm is down here, and then the hell, animals, hungry ghosts, and the suras. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the deprivation realms and the human realms. So
Gods
these
are on
are
the left.
these are the five realms of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then the gods are above. So this is the desire realm, and there's certain god realms that are in the desire realm, and then there's the god realms that are in the form realms. What do we have? Brahma realms. Well, I don't know. That's a little hard to read, but that's a graphical picture of it. Anyway, that's not very helpful. Eric, what do you got?
Actually, it just was a weird thought, like that, like the. I guess it's tied up with the whole evolution of Buddhism anyway. But that you go through the sutric stuff and develop this kind of problematic conceptualization of emptiness, and then like it looks like most of what we discussed today and last week has to do with trying to understand not to reify emptiness, but that's conate or whatever it is with basically everything else that comes up. Um, I mean, it almost makes me wonder. Somebody once advanced uh, a translation of shunyata not as emptiness, well, certainly not as the void, not as emptiness, but as openness. Which I mean, you kind of wonder like why we're taken through this whole thing where we bother to conceptualize it in the first place. But anyway, that's why I thought it would take a long time.
Well, the main point is something about how we build up these
Well,
conceptual
yeah,
understandings, and
is
then
it actually necessary to build up this kind of reification of emptiness in our
because
practice?
you only have to let go of it later.
Yeah,
It becomes an
what if you
obstacle.
just yeah? Is there something funny about the way the path evolved that has us do that?
There's definitely something funny about it.
Well, it's
Okay,
also
here.
just a challenge of translation. I think, along with openness, I think, let's see, Joan Halifax and Kaz, the Japanese translator, used the term boundlessness, which I think is similar to the openness one, because they felt that, in translating the Heart Sutra, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
So
because I think
here are the realms, right? The hell, animals, hungry ghosts, the surus, and then look, you're
you are
here
here.
for now.
That's really
So
funny.
this is human beings. The Devas are the four great kings. You've heard of the four great kings of the four directions, right? You go into Tibetan temples, and they always have tonkas, paintings of the four great kings that guard the four directions that were connected to by the Buddha in the Sutra of Golden Light that were brought in to protect the world. Then the 33 gods, the Amma, the contented, the light and creation, David's wealth and power. So these are god realms in the Kamaloka, which is the Sanskrit for the desire realm. So the realm in terms of loka. And then you have the 17 realms of the form realm gods. Here you have the first jhana, jhana being the Pali for jhana, the second jhana, so three of the first jhana, three of the second, three of the third, and then one of the fourth jhana, just only one division. Interesting. All these different devas: peerless, clear-sighted, beautiful, untroubled, not falling away, conscious, blah, blah, blah. That's the foreign realm, the fine material, Rupaloka. Then you have the formless realm, 1, 2, 3, fourth, with infinite space, consciousness, nothingness, neither perception nor non-conception. Anyway, it's just helpful to have a map, so you know where you are in the scheme of things. Okay, anyway, next week we go into enhancement, which should be a lot more relevant and helpful, so I'm looking forward to that. So thank you, everyone. Nice to see you. Let's close with our dedicatory verses, whatever they are. What happened to the dedication chants? We know the dedication chants, right? By this merit now obtain omniscience, may defeat the enemy wrongdoing from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. By the confidence of the golden sun of the great east, may the lotus garden of every dense wisdom bloom. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory. Thank you, everyone. Nice to see you. Hope you have a good week. See you next week. Take care.